It happens to me a lot. I won't say a lot, like not on a daily basis, like celebrity status or anything like that. But occasionally somebody jumped out of a drugstore recently. It was like, Mothership. And she's like, How are you? I follow you on Instagram, like that.
Yeah.
So I do get recognized on occasion, and I always get such a kick out of it.
I have noticed that when especially if I do jokes about you at like open mics, and afterwards people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, who's your mom? And then I show them your profile and they're like, oh my God, I've seen her. Like, or oh my God, I follow her. And I get those kind of crazy things like, I did not know that was your mom.
Oh my God.
It's been a few times and people are like, oh my God, I've definitely seen one of her videos. I've definitely learned things from her.
Hi, Julie. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Helen. Great to see you.
I am so happy to see you. And it was so cool to see your photo shoot. And I want to just start with that because I don't know if you even want to talk about it. But so many people are like, oh, did they get engaged? Of course, you got annoyed with that. A few people asked me, but I was just like, no, it wasn't that. It was just like a fun photo op for them. I thought that was funny that people right away think that. But I think it's typical because that's what people post,
That's what people post when they do get engaged. So I get it. But at the same time, it's like, that shouldn't be the only reason you can get nice photos with your significant other. It's just because like you get engaged. Like it can be anytime.
True.
And the reason this came about is because like our photographer in New York, and she's like such a cute, our photographer in New York, Margarita, was going to be in LA, and she had like posted on her Instagram story. She's like, anyone in LA and want to like shoot together. And I was like, well, hey, I'm here. Would love to do something. And usually we do like studio shoots where it's like more like portraits and like fun podcast content, but she also does couple stuff. So I was like, I think it'd be really fun if we did a couple shoot with Steven and I. Like, we've been living here for 2 years. We've been dating, we're about to hit 7 years. We don't have any like professional photos of us. And I'm like, I don't like, there's no reason we need to wait until like an engagement or marriage to like have nice photos. So I was like, let's go for it. And we're both so excited. We've only gotten the 3 film photos back. The rest were on her digital camera, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, it looked so good. It looked so good. It was
And
so
it was like
nice
perfect
to see
weather.
that. It's so nice to see that. And when I saw those photos, we had been talking about you guys doing some work together, and that also, I want to say, as a couple who connects so well and also you have such similar skill sets in terms of what you do technically, like how he just picked up editing, like no problem, and you are doing graphics. Like you have the perfect combo of working together, but you also have the perfect personalities for it. A lot of couples could not do it. And I would think I put you guys in a bucket of a couple who could do it, like a small group of couples who could work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting.
I like that. Yeah, it's good. It's funny because I was thinking, I don't think Dad and I would work well together. Even though we get along well, I don't think work-wise we would be the right fit. I think possibly because we're such different industries, but also just I think personalities. Like if it's just to be different. It's not. I think you guys would blend.
Well,
if it happens.
Yeah, because Steven does our editing, and
yeah,
he's the best podcast editor.
And you do the graphics for everything. So like you're good symmetry. All right, we'll see going forward how this all works out.
It'll be great.
It'll be great. It'll be fun. I can't wait to hear about your first one that could be coming up together. We'll table that in case we'll see what pans out. All right. So what do you want to talk about today? You made a list.
Well, you gave me an idea and then you changed the topic. So why don't you tell me what you want to talk about?
Okay. So I've initially thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about the whole online, how people's personalities online, a lot of them are not who they are in real life. And a lot of people are. Like it's a very different mix. And then I decided we can also talk about the parasocialness of being present online and being in people's phones where they feel that they know you. And it's very one-sided. It's very parasocial, where that one person feels like they know you really well. And often, just before we even start, I feel this way because I post so much and my friends are seeing everything. And yet when I want to catch up, I'm like, oh, so what have you been up to? And they kind of know what I've been up to. We've touched on this a little bit before. So it's this one-sided, like, I feel like I haven't seen them in forever. And they're right away like, I feel like I see you every day. And that's funny on a level, but it's also like one-sided backwards for me because I have no idea what they're doing every day.
Yeah.
And yet they know everything I'm doing,
I have the same thing when I catch up with friends. They're just like, "Oh, like you've been doing this and that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess yeah, you know exactly what I've been doing.
I know this.
Now tell me what you've been doing because you don't post anything on the internet."
I know. So it's weird how it's parasocial in two directions. It's the person who's very, very familiar with you and you're, but then there's the opposite, which is like we have a blank slate. There's nothing
Yeah.
parasocial on our side. So we need to know everything in person, which is really funny. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then I think it's interesting that people feel like like it's like people who know us in real life. It's always funny because it's like, oh, we're friends in real life. We were friends before social media, so
Oh,
it's
right.
you have that like foundation. But then it is interesting when you meet people, whether it's just like strangers or befriend people from the internet. It's like weird because whether or not they're active, like they know all about you because you've posted so much and like you could know nothing about this person, but they feel like they know absolutely everything about you.
Yes. Well, obviously that is huge for me right now. There's people that know, my whole family. That one time we got stopped in Jonathan, I got stopped in Disney World, and it was
I was telling
some,
someone
and
about
they
that
were
the other day.
that they. He felt so amazed that like he was famous, but they knew him. They recognized him from my content, and so it's like crazy. That was crazy. He still talks about it. He thought it was like the greatest thing, right?
Yeah,
So
it
funny.
is pretty wild. That story is insane because I don't know how many people know this, but you were at Disney World in with Jonathan at like one of the stores, and then someone came
Yeah.
up to Jonathan and was like, "Oh my God, you're the mothership's son," and then he brought her to you, and you
Yes,
guys met.
that's exactly what happened. It was so crazy, and it happens to me a lot. I won't say a lot, like not on a daily basis, like celebrity status or anything like that. But occasionally, somebody jumped out of a drugstore recently and was like, "The mothership," and she's like, "How are you? I follow you on Instagram," like that. Or one time I was on a subway
Yeah,
and someone across from me was, took it was when we were wearing masks. She took down her mask. She's like, "I follow you on TikTok," So I do get recognized on occasion and I always get such a kick out of it. I'm not a person that's creeped out by it. I get more creeped out if someone says on a comment, "Oh, I saw you on 6th Avenue." And I'm like, "You didn't say hello? Like what was I doing?" I get
yeah,
more paranoid about the people who don't say something to me than the people that do. It's like, "Please, if you see me, say something." Because it makes me feel
yeah.
weird if you don't.
I was gonna say,
I
do
don't
you
know.
like when people? Sorry, I have noticed that especially if I do jokes about you at like open mics, and afterwards people come up to me, they're like, "Oh my God, who's your mom?" And then I show them your profile, and they're like, "Oh my God, I've seen her," like, or "Oh my God, I
Oh.
follow her," and I get those kind of crazy things, like, I did not know that was your mom.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't know that. This is the first time you're telling me that
Yeah,
one.
it's been a few times, and people are like, "Oh my God, I've definitely seen one of her videos. I've definitely learned things from her." Like those are the
Oh my
yeah.
God. Oh, that's so enlightening.
And what I think is really interesting is in the past year that I've made some new comedy friends, a lot of them don't know that you went through cancer because I stopped
Oh.
like I had new material that wasn't about like your cancer and it's not super prevalent. Like people just also think your hair is short because that's like the style you liked it in. And I was like, oh no, like she lost all of her hair. Like that was not a choice. like that like
Wow.
it is interesting. I had to like explain. I was telling someone recently and I was like, oh my God, I've known her for like a couple months now. And I'm telling her because I just think it's like such common knowledge on I'm gonna call it our lore.
Yeah. You would think, yeah. And I start to think that way too. And then on occasion, I will be enlightened. So I have even recently on TikTok, I think like a lot of my TikTok following has been through that part of my life. And then
Yeah.
occasionally, like recently there was a verified creator who runs like a fitness app or something. He's so funny, by the way. This guy is so funny because he's like Scottish hardcore, almost mean on his like, you know, well, of course you're going to do that because you're eating too many calories. Like he just calls it like it is. And he has this accent and he has like his whole aura is that. So it's like you buy into it. And I would love to know what he's like in real life. This goes to that whole, what your online persona is versus in real life.
Yeah.
But So he is in my comments going on one of my recent videos and said, "I didn't know you went through cancer. That's amazing." And he
Mm-hmm.
was so nice in the comment. And I'm like, wait a minute, is this the same guy who's mean to people online? Like
Yeah.
it's so funny. And I'm like, oh, he's probably is a really nice guy, actually.
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's like that chapter now. It like feels like it was pretty recently, but it's pretty far, not like
Yeah,
far, but like
in
the
social
blip
media,
is further away in the past now, especially on social media. So it's
it's
like you have to
further in the
scroll quite a
scroll.
bit.
It's further in the
Um,
scroll.
but what I was gonna say, it's interesting like the online persona versus like the in real life persona, because I've definitely met creators who I see them online and then I meet them in real life and they're like quiet and they're like not. And also I get it, like I'm an introvert. It takes me a while to like warm up to people, but it's interesting that they have this online persona, which I also relate
Yes.
to because I'm definitely introverted, but online I do all these crazy things. And then it makes me think about like comedy too, because there's so many comedians that like have a stage persona that's completely different than their like offstage persona. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like so weird to like
Yes.
interact with them and they have two different personas. And
Yeah, because you're very familiar with the online persona. That's the person
yeah,
you know. That's a
yeah.
huge thing. And I was enlightened to this very early on in my social media journey because when I was posting, I'm the same person posting. You meet me in real life, you're getting the same thing. Like there's no this is me online versus that. But I did meet someone who wanted to have a meeting early on, and she said something specific like, "Oh, and in my real self, I don't have that accent as much." So, whatever, she was trying to warn me that she wasn't going to sound the way she sounds on her TikToks. And that was my first time for being stunned to say, oh, people, I mean, I know people are actors and overperforming things, but it never really hit me like you choose to have this online persona, but then you're this
Mm-hmm.
other person in real life. And that I think a lot of times that backfires on people because either they're buying into the online persona or at one point you realize who they really are. And it's like, oh, why weren't they like that the whole time? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the type of creator you are, if that works for you or not. If you're an actress, I mean, go to town,
Yeah.
do the parts.
It is interesting because I watched a video the other day of like, do you know Chapel Roan?
Yeah, of course. Why did Tommy ask me that? And now you're asking me that. Like, I'm not going to know who that is. Tommy's like, oh no, he asked me who Noah Khan was. That was it. He goes, Mom, do you know
Did you
who
know
Noah
who that
Khan?
was?
Yes. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, of course you did. Like he just made a like because he
Did
just
he know
recently
who
discovered
Chap?
he just I didn't ask him about Chapel Rome, but he asked me about Noah Khan. I was like, why did you just find out who he is or something? Oh no, we know who he is. We just found out that he got his start on TikTok. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
That's how
And
you
then
know him.
of course, but the thing is, I don't realize how versed I am in that social culture because of
Mm-hmm.
my presence there. I'm so entrenched that I know things ahead of Tommy a lot of times. Sorry, Tommy.
Well, Tommy's also not the most active. Sorry, not to shit on Tommy, but he's not the most active on like the media.
No, he's a
He's in the
YouTube guy.
numbers.
He has a paid YouTube. Do you know he has a paid YouTube subscription? Did you know
So he
that?
doesn't have to watch ads.
Yes. Like who does that? That's what I would like to know. I mean, I would sit out an ad and hit skip. I'm not paying for YouTube. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my god, that's pretty
I never even
hilarious.
realized. I never even thought about it that you actually could pay for it and skip it. I never even thought about it. I guess the pop up happens once in a while now that I think of it. But yeah, Tommy has a paid YouTube because he watches YouTube videos.
He does watch a lot of YouTube videos.
But what about Chaperone?
She was in a like did an interview that Chapel Roan's like her stage character that she like puts on, that like when she's not on stage she's like herself, and that
Oh,
Chapel Roan's like the character. It's like her art form is like being that character, like that person, that persona on
oh,
stage.
okay.
And I thought that was really interesting, and it was like I read the comments because I was just like curious what people were saying. Is like an interesting, like especially when you like become that famous, like have being able to separate it could be good for like your
Sure.
psyche and like your mental health to like be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna like almost like a
So
Hannah Montana Miley
I was
Cyrus
just gonna
thing.
say Hannah Montana. I was literally gonna
Yeah,
say it. Oh my god.
but she's still like it's not like she puts a wig on, you know.
Right.
But it is interesting because then I think about that. I'm like, oh, do I need to like have a comedic
A
persona?
character.
But I
Oh,
also think
interesting.
comedy, for me, it's like I have like all my stories are like personal. So
Yeah.
like I need to be like my authentic self on stage, and that needs to translate. Like I can't be playing a character. But I have really enjoyed playing my characters on social media. Like when I imitate you, when I make my Brad character, like I do enjoy putting on this like facade of
Embracing a personality. Yeah, yeah. I
a
could see
different
you doing that.
personality.
I'm gonna say the chaperone thing gives me a little Lady Gaga because she also, I think, is
Mm.
very, out there, like with her characters, depending on her eras. And I don't know. I think a lot of artists do that. And so I would put that into a whole category of an art form. And I think
Mm-hmm.
your right now, your comedy and your art form are very blended into your who you are at your core. But that doesn't mean you can't play a character because a lot of stand-up comedians end up in movies and playing roles and doing characters on
Yeah.
sitcoms. So I do think that goes hand in hand. So but I think right now to your comedy skill set, it really is positive if you keep it to yourself because your stories and your storytelling are what make your jokes funny because it's very relatable to people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find it funny. Oh, Nicola and I were talking about somebody who posts online and v- over exaggerates a lot of the things. And so she was like, "Oh, I can't listen to this anymore because he's over exaggerating what it's like to live in the UK, for example." And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "And I know what it's really like, so I can't." So what's interesting about that is that I see that from a perspective of like, "Oh, I've kind of always assumed he was playing a character and being a skit because nobody's that
Mm-hmm.
over the top about things. So it's funny. I guess the whole skit thing, a lot of people use TikTok to do the characters they want to be. And I think that's a great place to have fun role play. That's why I don't know, it's just like everybody's creativity is different. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy into it. But also I agree with you, Nicola, in case you're listening, that yeah, some creators are trying to make it seem real, but it's like and everybody's buying into it and then you find out later, oh, they're actually not like that or it's actually not like that. They're just doing an over the top skit. And
Mm-hmm.
just like these couples that do these fake um
Oh,
they
don't even
try
get me
oh my god.
started.
Let's get started for 2 seconds when they do the fake baby reveal and or whatever baby gender reveal things and it's like everybody in the comments is fighting like, oh, red flag, it was a skit, people. Like no one knows that it was a skit.
Yeah.
I can't because sometimes they're reenacting, maybe there was one
Yeah.
person who had a bad reaction so then they're over the top reenacting it and the reenactments people think they're real. I'm like, come on now, this is satire.
People are not always that smart, but it's okay.
I'm sure I've been duped before.
I'm sure you have.
Yes, because I'm so gullible.
I was
I'm
more
sure.
thinking like it's always the couples that post so much on social media that end up having like the worst relationship and end up breaking up, where they're like trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
prove that they're like a happy couple, and then yeah,
Yes, there's a lot of that.
there's a
There
lot of
was,
those.
especially having been on social media and specifically TikTok since 2020, we've seen that again and again come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also seen the cancel culture thing. Like somebody says one thing and then somebody digs back in and finds things they've said before, and all of a sudden now they're I cancel. It's sometimes I get
My thing, hold
upset.
on.
Like, yeah.
My thing about the cancel culture, especially when it's like comes to resurface tweets, when you blow up, why don't you go back and scrub your Twitter account and delete those things? It seems so, it takes 5 minutes.
Basic.
Just go, it's basic. I went back and deleted like all my tweets. None of them were problematic just because I was like, this is embarrassing.
I know, more so because of that. I'm like,
These are
let's
like
go back.
embarrassing
Ugh,
thoughts.
cringe.
Embarrassing thoughts from a 14-year-old. Like, absolutely not. No one needs to see this. Like, let's just delete it.
Yeah. But do you think that people screenshot it before like other people have screenshotted it? I don't
I
know.
don't know. But every time I'm just like, how come people don't go back? Because I feel like it's always like old tweets resurface, and it's like,
Oh
how
dear.
did you not delete that once you got like more than 1,000 followers on it or anything? Like, but then I guess on the same point, maybe it's good because if they if they didn't care enough to go back and like delete those, then
Mm,
they clearly didn't see them as problematic. And then I guess it's good that they're coming up, but like at
yeah.
the same time, yeah, like I also know, yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Well, is that on your list there? Did you make a list of things of people that were,
I
what
mean,
did you make?
before you change the topic, I made a list of influencer like
Can,
influencer pet peeves, not like
oh, I love
cancel
that.
culture.
Can we talk about influencer pet peeves? I want to say that. That'd be funny.
Not scrubbing your Twitter once you get.
That was one. Once you get famous, what do I have to scrub? I got
Nothing,
nothing to
because you're a
scrub.
nice person. It's like the people, and like I get it sometimes, because like some people are raised in like an environment where they're like,
I know.
they don't realize that the thing they're talking about is problematic
Yes.
until they get out, and then they don't really like think to go, whatever. We don't have to get into it. But
Well,
basically,
I want to get into that because I would say the same, like someone my age, especially when I was younger, like a lot of things were okay to say, even in my household. And in my household, I would a lot of times be like, even things would bother me, but I didn't know enough. I just look back to like being a kid at a just like time passes and things change and evolve and you learn and you become a grown up and you see things in a different way. So I get that. All right, carry on. What were you going to say?
oh, I just had like influencer pet peeves, which I think could kind of go into this topic of the parasocial thing, is that
Okay.
I always go through this cycle, and I think I might have talked about it before on the pod, but where I follow a creator and then I get really like into this creator, really love their content, and then after like a couple of months or like even a year or just I see their content too much and it starts to like agitate me where I'm like, it's not authentic and it's forced. And usually that aligns with whenever they decide to take influencing full time, their content always
Oh,
shifts because it's like then their livelihood depends on their content
yeah.
and then they're forcing the content. So it's not as authentic, it's not as like original, it's
Mm,
not as organic as it used to be when they were like, oh, this is like the thing I'm doing for fun. But then it becomes
yeah.
your job and it's like, well, they have to pump it out and then,
I think that's an overall problem on social media with influencers in general because it
yeah.
becomes a necessity versus a fun thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's always been a weird part of my fear where, oh, like if I do a promoted thing and then people are going to think I'm not really promoting that. And then I don't know. That's why I've struggled to just be really true to myself through this whole 4-year journey, if you want to call it that, just because I wanted to post like we talked about last week with the cakes. I wanted to post the real thing. They're not doing what people are saying, and I can't post it. I'd be a terrible influencer for that reason because I'd have to say it like it is.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
That was the other thing that I had on my thing was bad brand partnerships that don't
Mm.
align with like people's content. That's like another one because I've been seeing the funny part about this is I saw someone making fun of this before I saw the original.
Oh,
Like I saw the parody before the original, which is
that's
so
funny.
funny just like the content cycle, but it was like an influencer who was doing a partnership with like Motorola Razr, like those flip phones.
Okay.
And it's
Yep.
like they're so clearly filming the content with the iPhone, but like of them using, like
Oh
they're
my
using their
god.
Razer phone in their content, but it's like what
What are
you're
you filming
filming that
on?
with an iPhone. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And
so
so someone was
funny.
like made a parody of that. It's like every like influencers doing that. And that's what I see. Like that's a bad one when like influencers do like insurance partnerships, which like I'm sure
Mm.
they're making bank and I can
Oh my
understand why they said
god.
yes to it, but I'm like, oh God, it's just so bad.
It's cringe. I got contacted by a company. I don't mind saying either. I'm going to give them some free press right now, but it's called Swift Filing. SWISWYFTE or EE. I don't know, filing. But it's like if you wanted to make a business, it would be a quick way to incorporate or whatever. I can't do a video about that. I never even used it. Am I going to like pretend I set up my businesses with, or am I going to set up another business now so I could say I used it?
Yeah.
The whole thing was just like, sorry, but I could. And so I wrote back and I said, I have a newsletter where if you'd like to sponsor a newsletter we can have people click on it and read about it for themselves. But I can't get behind. I can't make a video about that. That's absurd. I'm going to make a
Yeah.
video coming up now because I'm going to do something that somebody contacted me and said, "Oh, if you want to be an affiliate for this thing," and I was like, "Okay, tell me about it. What is it?" And it's a test that you take, like almost like a the DNA. What are the DNA things called? Like the 23andMe, like
23andMe.
a swab test. You do a swab, and then it gives you data, and you could either choose medicine or nutrition. So if you choose medicine, you would learn what your DNA, what medicines don't work well for your DNA. So like maybe somebody would assign would a doctor might want to prescribe Cipro, and you could have the data to say actually that Cipro is in this category of medicines, and that probably isn't absorbed well into my bloodstream. So can we try a different one? So it would give you data to be able to get it. So
I got
the
it.
other one, the other one is would be helpful for you. So it's the nutrition test where you do the swab and then you find out, which I can't wait to find out, do I really have a problem with onions, garlic, and peppers? Like, I think it's a real thing. I feel that it's a real thing, but one could argue, oh, your mom made you eat those things when you were younger and you didn't like them, so you developed an aversion. So we could look at this both ways, if that's actually true, or if it's actually DNA provable that I'm not able to digest those things. So I'm very excited because I'm going to do the nutrition one. And
Exciting.
for me, I said yes to that because I'm like intrigued. I want to try it. I don't even, if someone buys it, great. It's not going to make me rich and pay my rent. But if it's like, I'm going to talk about it because I can say, I'm doing this test and it's content for me. And this is how the test works. And let's find out what the results are. Oh my gosh, look at this. The results say. So I kind of can't wait to do it because I feel that that is a journey I could take my followers along with. And that feels authentic to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
It's like not every brand partnership has to be a brand that you use and love every single day, but it has to be a brand you're like interested in and could see
yes.
yourself using. Because if you're like, I've seen the stupid ones for like Rocket Mortgage. Okay, not stupid. Don't want to shit on Rocket Mortgage, but like influencers doing partnerships with like a mortgage company. I'm like, you don't even own a house. How is this like relevant? How are you promoting this? But now that I've been
Crazy.
doing more skits, I get how like comedy accounts could do these kinds of like paid partnerships because they can put on a
Yes.
persona of someone
Oh
who's
my,
like,
that's very funny.
but at the same time, I'm just like, oh my God, literally just trying to whatever. I mean, I guess
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes it is in the world of influencing. It's like the the brands that aren't the most flashy are the ones that actually have the cash to pay.
Yeah. Flash but cash or no flat or whatever. How we
No
can make
flash,
a
but they got the
they got
cash.
the cash. And I
You
think
need to
that
find those brands.
but I do think that those kind of things they are buying into your persona for their page because they know you're
Yeah.
recognizable, and that doesn't necessarily have to have you converting on your feed. So Rocket Mortgage, I love how we're giving them a lot of shout outs, but so if I did a thing about Rocket Mortgage, I mean, I maybe to a certain audience, I'm a recognizable social media maven. So somebody on their
Yeah.
page might stop and scroll to watch me. I don't necessarily think on my page people are going to watch if I start talking about Rocket Mortgage, but maybe so they're buying into the character just as if they would hire a celebrity and say, "Oh, now you have Mel
Mm-hmm.
Gibson in this ad or somebody famous or like Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper." I do want to before I want to not forget to say what this nutrition test is because if people are like asking us because it's interesting and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Plexus DX. So I will put the link in the newsletter show notes. I'm going to send it to you, Julie, because people might want
Yeah.
the freaking test to try it. But I'm going to be trying it so you can follow along my journey before you make a decision. But I'm excited for that little partnership, and they're also sponsoring a
Mm-hmm.
newsletter, so we're pumped for that. Yay!
Woo.
Woo! Thank you, Megan. Giving Mego a big shout out. She connected us with
Mm-hmm.
them. So cool. All right, but let's keep going with this with the idea that influencers are selling out and they're killing us
Killing
because we
us.
don't want to see it.
Maybe. Okay.
Go ahead.
I would love to get your thoughts. I feel like this whole episode is kind of like a mishmash, but whatever. I've been seeing so many videos about creators leaving TikTok because the algorithm sucks. It's only promoting TikTok shop and like people are just at this point over it. And I'd love to get your thoughts as like a
Where are they
seasoned
going?
like they're just focusing on like YouTube shorts and
Oh.
Instagram because those platforms and I have noticed it. Like
Mhm.
I will post something to Instagram and it gets far more views and reach and engagement than anything I post on TikTok, even on my 20K account.
Okay.
And I'm even posting on YouTube more now. Every time I post on TikTok, I post to YouTube. And yeah, I'm getting at least like 1,000 views on my content. That's not happening on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
So it is interesting. It's like, it's more about, you know, I've seen videos where creators are not necessarily like leaving TikTok, but they're not creating like TikTok focused content where it's like, okay, maybe like Instagram's their main one, and then whatever content they make for Instagram, they also post to TikTok and YouTube. So it's like, where are you
Okay.
focusing? I don't know. Just
So
curious
what's my
because,
so what's my take? Is you want to know what my take is on
yeah,
this?
you have a million followers, so it also might be different because you actually
No,
have.
it's not. If you think about the percentage, no, it's not because think about the percentage of views I'm getting on my videos compared to what I used to get, or compared to other people who have millions of followers. And I'll scroll and I'll see all their videos are viral. They're like at least, 100,000, 24,000, 100,000, 24. Mine are like 3,000, 5,000, and then, oh, 10,000, and then 3,000. I don't reach my audience by any stretch, by any
Yeah.
stretch of whatsoever, except on an occasional viral video, which goes out to new people. And that is few and far between right now. So, but my take on it is so different. I don't think it's going to be what you think I'm going to say. Is when, and it's going to be related to this, when we first started on the platforms and it was like you have to niche down to grow your following, and I refused to fit into that mold. I was like, and I told you when you were little, you don't have to fit in, you don't have to be like everybody else. So everybody was niche down. So I should have been posting tutorials in my staying in my lane. But I was like, oh God, that would bore me. I will get so bored and sick of it. That's not going to be fun for me. And who's going to want to watch my videos one after the next where it's like a lesson? So I did not do that then. And so I think what happened then, the whole thing came full circle. And then now it's like, oh, show more of your personality. If you can post in your niche, but also show more about you because that's what your audience is going to want, and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, I'm always in it for the long game. So I'm always like, you know what, it'll come around to this eventually, even though. So my theory on this right now is people like bailing out, leaving, not focusing, is that I'm slow and steady wins the race. So I am still
Mhm.
committed to the small amount of people who are seeing my videos as if they were my only followers, and I'm here for them. And so that's
Yeah.
how I resolve it. And that's why I'm like, I never get tired of doing it. I never get bored of it. I'm always like, today I was like, oh, I got to teach this. This is so crazy. I can't wait to post this one, by the way. Did you know what happens when the sound comes out of one headphone? Do you ever watch that when you're scrolling and all of a
Yeah.
sudden a video plays and there's only sound coming out of one headphone? That never happened.
I don't really. I don't know.
Really? I find it happens mostly in ads. Like I'll be scrolling and all of a sudden there's an
Mm.
ad with the sound coming out of one headphone. And it's so basic that I die every time. I'm like, this is an ad. These people have professionals. How is
Mhm.
this how is this on a paid ad? It makes me want to cry and cringe all
Yeah.
at once. But it's because the person who recorded had a wireless microphone that was set to stereo instead of mono. It's the little thing that
Mm.
plugs into the phone. And the little thing that
Yeah.
plugs into the phone, if you set it to stereo, it does like this thing where it wants to do a right left channel thing. So it only records on one anyway. You just got to record at mono. So I just all of a sudden I was talking about it today on my workshop and I was like, I got to make a video about this right now. So my point is I get motivated and excited when I discover something and I'm like, I got to teach this right now. So I never think
Yeah.
only 5,000 people are going to see it. Ugh, poor me. I have a million followers. I never think of it that way. I think those 5,000 people really needed to see that video. And
Yeah.
that's how I look at it.
For me, I've kind of shifted my TikTok focus. Like, obviously, I'm like starting a new account, and definitely like it was worth it because I feel like I'm getting the same amount of views that I would have gotten on my 20K account, but I have like 60
Good.
followers. So like clearly something is working. I'm more using it as like an accountability thing at this point to make sure I post every day or like that I'm
Nice.
making content every day to get back into that routine. The past 2 nights I've waited until like 10 p.m. and like, oh my God, I haven't posted anything on TikTok. Like I need to make something. And then I'll make something super quick and post it. Even if it's not like the best and I don't love it, I'm like, those are the ones that always get you and those are the ones that go viral. So, I'm just going to keep doing it. And
Good.
that's my take, but
I love
we'll
that.
see.
That makes me very happy because I think in the end, it's keeping yourself happy and keeping yourself accountable that makes you the winner in the end. I do. I truly believe that. Yay.
Nice.
I love talking about this though. You know that. It's a
I
good
know.
topic. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things on social media that I'd say is, a lot of people get trolled and then their content changes because of that, and we could see examples of that. We could see promos and we could see things. But like, just to keep it more on a positive side, if you stay your course and you stay in your happy place, I think that's what the purpose is. I think it just really is,
Yeah.
because
I think you said it like at the very beginning, like you're always going to be positive. And I think that's really important because I feel like sometimes when people end up getting their trolls and then they have
they
this like downfall, it's because they're like trying to then attack. I don't really know. It's just, it seems like if you keep the positive energy going, then like you're a good example of it. You just keep the positive energy going. You're not like immediately like if you get a troll responding to that comment and like shitting on that person.
no, because that's a spiral. That's a quick spiral. And the thing is, that also brings that energy to the top. So then that type of content, those type of comments, sorry, float to the top.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you make them more important than the hundreds of really nice comments. And I sometimes they disturb the crap out of me if I get a mean one, but I just refuse to let that be the focus. I just refuse. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there's times where I feel like I just want to come back at this person, but I don't. I
That's why
don't.
I'm not like totally opposed to hiding like if you're doing something like unproblematic and someone leaves a mean comment, I'm all for like deleting that comment. Like why do you need to bring that negative energy there? Like I don't think it's a bad thing. If you're doing something shitty on the internet or have a shitty opinion or have like a doing something bad, then yeah, you deserve to get the shitty comments. But if it's like your videos and you get a mean comment, I'm like
Yes.
just delete it. Like don't even
Delete it.
it's not even worth responding. Or like if
Remember when I was getting those comments in a row on that one video and people thought I said a word which I didn't say? And I played the video over and over. I'm like, I never said that word. Where are they getting this from? And you were like, delete the comments. I could not keep up with deleting the comments. That's how many of these comments there were. I don't know if it was what country I landed in, the way a word sounded in that country, or what happened, but it was crazy. Crazy. And so instead, I would just respond to them, some of them, and go, beginner question mark, because I'm like, is that the word they're mishearing? And then they would,
Mhm.
most of them came back and said, oh, misheard that. And I'm like, oh, that, at least I got to the bottom of it. So there was a word that people were accusing me of saying. I was like, what? I've watched this video 42 times. That word is not even coming out of my mouth. What are you even talking about? It makes no sense. And so anyway, I got to the bottom of it, but I couldn't keep up with the deleting of the comments because it was
Yeah.
so viral. It was so crazy.
Ugh, what a tragedy to have a video with views.
With so many
I get
views that
one negative comment every month, and then I'm like, well, I have time to delete this one.
you're so funny. Oh my God. All right. We can wrap it up. It's probably getting hot where you are. How's the weather in
It is
in
very
your
hot.
world? You had an earthquake though. Let's just talk about that.
Oh, yes, we did.
Oh
We
my
had an
God.
earthquake. We're having a lot of them recently. Like we've had more in the past couple like months than we have the first like year and a half we lived here. And we had one
Jeez.
yesterday and my desk started shaking. I looked at Steve and I was like, "Oh my God. Like it's an earthquake. I think something's
Wow.
happening. Like my desk is shaking." And he didn't feel it, but like my desk, my monitor was shaking. And I could like
Wow.
just feel my desk shaking. It was like the weirdest thing. And then a week or two ago, he felt one when we were sitting on the couch. I didn't feel anything at all. So it's also very strange that like we are two people in the same
Wow.
apartment and sometimes we feel like and sometimes like we don't, but this one was super super close because we're in like the West Hollywood area, and this earthquake was like in Highland Park, which is just like a few miles east of us, like
Oh, I thought it was
20
Pasadena.
minutes. Okay, Google said like 2.2 miles south of Pasadena, which is like
Oh.
closer to LA, which I
Oh.
don't know why they don't just say Highland Park and not
Oh.
2.2 miles from Pasadena, you know? It's stupid. But it is crazy and it is interesting. They're very quick and I'm not used to it. They do kind of freak me out because I'm like, oh my God,
The
this is
actual
terrifying.
ground. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not safe on the ground, which is like,
Yeah, like
okay,
I don't know where to go ever, and I'm just confused. Like I know you have to get under a table. Like, do we need a go bag? It's like all. If you're from California, just drop me a little comment on what I'm supposed to be
yeah,
doing
we
during
need
these
to know what you're
earthquakes.
supposed to do. I would like you to be prepared.
I
Jeez.
know.
Well, I contacted I call him Music Mike, but our music guy from that came to your show, who is from Pasadena. And as soon as you
Hmm.
told me it was in Pasadena, I texted him immediately. I'm like, Julie just told me there's an earthquake. Are you guys okay? And he said, yes, but his teenage daughter came out of her room. And he said, and that's a rarity. So it was enough to get her out of her room.
That's
I thought
funny.
that was really funny. He's like, yeah, it was a big boy. He called it a big boy. And so I guess,
Yeah, it was big. It was like
wow.
4.7. I don't remember what the magnet.
How long did it go?
Like 10 seconds.
Oh gosh. It's so crazy. Well, so
Mm-hmm.
that is that the first main one of you would say you've experienced of all?
No,
I know you said,
we felt one, a bigger one, back in like February or
oh.
something, and like the whole house was shaking, like the door was shaking, and it was like a longer one. We just like didn't know what to do. Like,
Yeah. California life, baby.
I know.
California sunshine comes with comes with the
Comes with the price.
earthquakes. Comes with the price. All right, girl. Well, have a great rest of the week, and I'll be talking to you like later for work and tomorrow for
Yes.
work, but we will see you all next week. Thanks for being with us. Bye. Yours truly.
Helen and Julie.
If you enjoyed this, always request that you leave us a little review or whatever. Say give us a few stars. And do you want to say anything about our outro? We haven't had a proper outro in a while. We know to follow us on hellosocialize.com for newsletters. What else do you want to say?
Leave us a review. We'd love it if you could drop us 5 stars or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media.
At yours truly the podcast.
Yes. We post some amazing teasers by our producer, Steven.
Yes.
Exciting.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.